Welcome to Sustainable Packaging with Cory Connors. Today's guest is my friend Lindy Hughson. She is the president of the IPPO, which is the International Packaging Press Organization. How are you, Lindy?
I'm great. How are you, Cory?
Good. I'm honored to have the president of the IPPO on here, and we had a great conversation a few weeks ago about what the IPPO does, and I'm looking forward to getting into that with you. But first of all, let's talk about your background a little bit first. How did you get into packaging?
Well, into packaging journalism, I landed into this happy place when I was first working. Just started out. I was actually trained as a teacher in English literature and geography. My degree was in human geography or social geography, and also, as I said, in English. But I had a very good friend working on a packaging trade journal. And at the time she said, look, I'm off to study environmental science and go and work for an engineering company, but this job is right for you. Just drop everything. I know this is perfect for you. And I thought, well, let me go and have a look and see. And I never looked back. It was just wonderful. I met at the time, I was interviewed by Jill Loebscher. She worked this was in South Africa, Cory. That's where I grew up and where I spent a lot of my adult life. She was at the time the editor-in-chief of a group of journals for the company in South Africa. And she said, all right, look, you don't have the traditional journalism training here, but I can see you can write and I can see you're interested. And she took a chance on me, and she has to this day been my mentor in the sense that I learned a great deal from her, and I always look up to the example that she set. She was a tremendous journalist in packaging. She was a member of IPPO. You say IPPO, we say IPPO, that's okay. Just because it's shorter. But she, for many years, was the Secretary General of IPPO, which is a position that I also held on the board. But to cut a very long story short, in 2004, I stayed working for those journals. I was looking at food, beverage, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, everything to do with the manufacturing, but also importantly, the packaging. So I had a really good grounding, and I've seen over the decades, I can say now, a lot of change. And then in 2004, we moved to Australia as a family, and I immediately, once we'd settled and I started to look for a role, the first thing I did was to look for a publishing house that had a packaging journal, because I very clearly had worked out in my short break from work as we moved across countries that I didn't want to let go of packaging. And I do think it's something I've heard you comment on before yourself, Cory.
Yeah.
Once you get into packaging, it is not something that you get out of. It's kind of gets into your bloodstream, doesn't it? And
very much so, yes.
So yes, I now have been in Australia for close on 20 years and have been working in a publishing house, an independent publishing house that has across several titles, but still my passion and primary focus is packaging.
That's amazing, and quite a background there, and very impressive. Let's talk about IPPO. And I'll say it right from now on, I promise.
Oh, no, that's well, the funny thing is that when you become an honorary member of IPPO, so for people like our immediate past president, Stephen Pacitti, he becomes a hippo as such. But no, it's that we just joke around. But yes, the International Packaging Press Organization, which is almost 50 years old now, Cory. It started a long time ago, when a group of packaging journalists at the time realized that they were regularly meeting up or bumping into each other at trade shows and at events, international events, and started what they call a friendly association. So it really was when they got together at places, at these events, they'd gather, have dinner, have fun, talk about things packaging. And then it began to be something where they thought, hang on a minute, here we are, a collective that has so much knowledge and can really help industry as well with our knowledge. Let's try to liaise with industry and see what we can do. And they started to organize things like inward missions or visits to factories or shows, trade shows, liaising with the bodies that are organizing those trade shows so that IPPO journalists could be invited funded in some cases, part sponsored in some cases, to go and learn about more things packaging and to write about them and spread the word. So that's kind of in a loose way how the organization started. And for many years, it has continued along those lines, over time becoming more of a, the new board has been trying to steer it more towards not only a friendly association, which of course we are, and I can tell you, Cory, I have made some of my very best friends in IPPO, but we've also trying to work more on a professional level as well. And that is going to be, as you mentioned, I am the IPPO president. I've just come into the role as of Interpack. We have a 3-year cycle that we've always had at the AGM, or the general meeting rather, because not annual, at Interpack. And that is where I was appointed this time. I've taken over, as I said, from Stephen Pacitti, who did a fantastic job. And now my role is going to be to elevate the awareness around this association, Cory. And I am hoping that you, as our very newest member,
Oh, wow.
The tribe has spoken, the members have voted.
Oh.
You were nominated by our good friend Tim Sykes from Packaging Europe. I seconded your nomination. The membership has voted, the board has supported, and you, congratulations, are our newest.
Thank you so much. What an honor. Wow.
I thought I'd surprise you with that news now, and
I'm
to
thrilled.
say, now our work begins, Cory. Now our work.
Well, I am thrilled. I'm thankful. I know the style of news that I provide is unique and newer to the organization. And I hope that I can fit in with your current members and provide value. But you're exactly right. The times are changing. Podcasting and posting on LinkedIn and TikTok and Instagram have become a form of media and journalism that is absolutely valuable to our community. And it doesn't take anything away from the amazing publications that the other members work for. It just adds to it, I think, a different niche. So thank you so much, Lindy. Wow, you made my day. This is amazing.
Well, that's good. So yes, Cory, so I did want to say that our membership is a grouping of people that do different things. So you, like yourself, for the most part, they've come through the traditional media house style. And we have among our group some of the top media publications in packaging, which I'm really pleased to say. We have, to mention just a few, Packaging
Yes.
Europe, Packaging World, Packaging Digest, Packaging News, Ecoplastics in Packaging, Packaging in Print Media, and they come from South Africa, from North America, from Europe, from England or the UK, Australia, of course, India, Japan, and so on. So we have a really wide grouping, a kind of an eclectic mix, we can call it. And I'm really proud to say that the quality of journalism, of course, also Scandinavian countries as well, the quality of journalism is tip top that we're seeing out there. But I do think it is supplemented definitely by other forms of media. And I certainly saw that when I was at Interpack, how important it was for us to be, for my publication, which is PK and Packaging News in Australia, and also in general for IPPO members. But for me as a journalist to be on the floor, interviewing live, getting those videos out there same day, so that people could feel, those who weren't at the show could feel I am at the show. There was an immediacy to that reporting. The constant posting, I mean, it can feel like a millstone around your neck, but because you are having to be regular and frequent when you're trying to give that show coverage. We've done also from trade show floors, and I know you and your colleague Avilio are going to be at Pack Expo with your Packaging Today podcast. We have done in Australia, we started that with our AusPack trade show. So I think we were one of the first to have a live stream podcast from the show floor. Nothing fancy, but it just was that immediacy of it. We filmed, or we broadcast 44 podcasts across a 3-day trade show. And it was just tremendous, the engagement that we managed to achieve. So I believe that journalism, as you said, when it comes to packaging or anything that we're doing, has entered that very new, immediate era where we have to be aware that people consume their content in different ways. So some might like to listen to it on a podcast this week and watch the video news bulletin next week, or read it as a story, or read it as in the journal. And you have to try to cater to all those audiences. And so that's quite a big brief for many of us who started out when we just had a magazine. That was all we could produce, a monthly magazine.
Yes, incredible points. And I think you're right. Each of us consumes media in different ways. Some people like long form, still print magazines or newspapers, and that's okay. These are still great ways to look at what's going on in the world. Or some people want to read through an article on a website. Some people want an Instagram post that's got pictures. Some people want a quick video on TikTok or LinkedIn. And you're exactly right. The videos or the posts that I do on scene, and I can speak to just recently being at Circularity 23 in Seattle, Washington, and constantly posting about that with my cohort, Mr. Adam Peak, who's also a podcaster and a good friend of mine. But that's what we did. And we got so many responses of, oh, thank you guys for posting. Thank you for telling us what's going on, because I couldn't make it. It was hard for me to get to Seattle at the time, and I just had a conflict. So I think this is the future. We need to provide options. And sometimes I'll see the article in 3 different forms, and this one is the one I like to read the best. It's with Packaging Digest, so I think you're exactly right. That's all I'm saying.
So I think also, Cory, because we're working in an industry where the spotlight really is on it, for reasons good or bad, packaging is definitely in focus. And what's happening and evolve, the technology, the rapid pace of change, the constant development of new materials, and especially speaking in the space that you cover, which is sustainable packaging, really you have to be live and on stream all the time to be keeping pace with that information. And one of the things I did notice when I was going around the show floor at Interpack was there wasn't, in the olden days, because I'm a veteran now, but in the olden days, you go to the trade show and you go, wow, this is a thing I've never seen before. It blows your mind on the spot in the trade show. Now, this time, for us journalists who are at the coalface of receiving that information that's coming across our desk, you kind of go knowing what you're going to see, or you are aware of it. For example, I think of a company like Pullpack, dry molded fiber. Now, in years past, I'd have gone and that would have been brand new technology. I knew about it, but how great was it that I could actually go and meet the founder? And this is the value of trade shows, to go there, meet the founder, understand what his motivations are, understand what their vision is, see the product, touch it, feel it. That's the difference. And that's why trade shows, I believe, have a long life ahead of them.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Yeah, the experience of the in-person event is 10 times more valuable than the virtual. Although there was a lot of value and is a lot of value of virtual meetings and virtual presentations, but you're exactly right. Getting to shake somebody's hand, getting to feel the product, getting to see it in person, getting to test it, getting to oftentimes watch the equipment work, and then have the engineers explain it along with the salespeople or marketing team it's an incredible experience. And yeah, I interviewed Pullpack on my podcast 1.5 years ago. And that's why I wish I could have gone to Interpack. That would have been awesome to get to finally meet them in person. But that, for me, that's a lot of the experience. Like, I got to meet the team from Sway that's making seaweed-based packaging yesterday. And I had interviewed her 6 months ago. So it's exciting to finally close the loop.
Yes, and connect with all those people. So you did say to me, so some of you asked me to talk about Interpack a little bit.
Yes.
And well, for me, one of the key highlights was finally seeing some of my IPPO colleagues again. So we had quite a broad contingent of journalists there. Not as many as we might have had in the past, Cory, because travel is so much harder these days. We've come through the pandemic. I think there's an air of caution around international travel, but also it's very expensive as well. So what we had a good solid group of at least 25 plus of IPPO journalists. Obviously, there are other journalists there as well, covering from the media in Germany. We had a good interaction with the WPO, that's the World Packaging Organization. And IPPO and the WPO have worked closely, and we do align, but we are now going to work even closer going forward. So that's very exciting for me. The World Packaging Organization used the IPPO party. We have an Interpack IPPO party, which is kind of a famous event. And it's supported by our partners, our sponsors. So we have UCIMA, the Italian Trade Association, that came as well. And sidebar there, the Italian machinery on show was next level. And I saw some of that at IPPO last year, which is the Italian trade show for packaging and processing. Really fantastic stuff was on show at Interpack. Getting to that next level of automation, digitization, and building in the sustainability of machinery. That was a strong trend at Interpack that we saw. That sustainability was overall the biggest trend, and that was linked into, and then automation and digitization as well. But that was closely linked, that the machinery manufacturers were not forgetting the sustainability side of it. In fact, it was top of mind there. Anyway, I digress. I just wanted to mention Interpack party, our supporters, because that's quite an important aspect of IPPO, that we have these associations with associations like PMMI, organizer of Pack Expo, APPMA, APMA, the organizer of APEX, which is the new trade show for the Australian and New Zealand region, UCIMA, the Italian body. Oh gosh, I'm probably going to forget somebody now. Fin Partners organizes, is a PR agency, but they work very closely with a lot of the bodies, and with, so for instance, with PMI, and also with big companies like TNA Solutions. I'm sure you're aware of TNA. They had a fantastic stand. They had an extended reality experience on their stand. So you could go and put on the headset and go into a potato chip manufacturing and packaging full line in operation. And those were the sorts of things that made the experience of Interpack different, where you can go, I know that's not new necessarily, the augmented reality, but this was kind of really an extent, they called it XR, extended reality. Apart from seeing on their stand all the new equipment and having chats with people, there was also this experience. So I think some of the show stands were really exceptional. Interesting signage around, Cory, lots of messaging around sustainability, joy in the circular revolution.
Right.
All the messaging was around that goodbye plastic, which I thought was a little ill-informed, but anyway. And the other side of things that was, and stop me because I'm probably babbling, I get so excited talking about it all.
It's your show, my friend. You do it. I'm in awe of your wisdom. So keep it coming.
So the materials development was also very interesting. So lots of post-consumer recycled content options. So rPET, RP, etc., etc. Also paper-based products everywhere.
Yeah.
So giving that, especially also in the flexible space, people being very careful about how they worded their paper only. So making clear that there was a plastic barrier and whatever that was. But we saw paper wrap for letters, which you would normally have a flexible film around, all sorts of lidding options and so on. The other interesting thing was where before we may have seen styrofoam or EPS, expanded polystyrene, there were options now for expanded polypropylene, which is easier to recycle. I don't know about your country, but certainly here, EPS, we've got a little bit of recycling just starting up for EPS, but it really is, it's something we prefer not to see in certain applications for packaging. So yeah, it was all around materials moving to monomer as well, monomaterials, especially for flexible pouches. But the pouch isn't going anywhere. The pouch is still a very much preferred format.
Yeah. Well, and it's more sustainable. Yeah, we've done all kinds of LCA in many situations, right? There's always caveats, but you're exactly right. And what a great recap. And I'll do what it takes to make sure to get to the next Interpack event so I can.
2026, Cory, start
Ye-
saving your money.
yes, ma'am. I'm in. I'll start a
Yeah.
piggy bank. I'll tell my wife we
Well, you
gotta
have
go.
to go. It's your it will be your passion project now because you'll need to be at the next IPPO party and so on. But yes, Cory, I did want to speak to you about, because I heard you and Emilio, if I might ask you this question. I heard you guys chatting about the paper bottle. Now, I'm across the whole thing with the Absolute trial, the BOCO bottle that's come out, which is really not that much paper versus plastic, marginally more. And I understand what they're trying to achieve there. So I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying this has been called out all over the place, all over social media as greenwashing. Now, yesterday in our market in Australia, we announced Frugal Pack is coming into Australia. That's a different concept, and you know it, I'm sure. The Frugal bottle, which is a 94% paper bottle with an inner pouch.
Yeah.
Which is basically a wine bag that we would have in a normal bag-in-box system.
Right.
And so my question is, you asked me whether I think reusable packaging is the way of the future. Now it's certainly one aspect of it. But when I was speaking to Frugal Pack yesterday, and what an amazing team of people, it really is an interesting product. I said, but what about the reality is that 5% of which is the bag, isn't going to be recycled. Right. That will end up in landfill. So where do we draw the line with, okay, this is still better than glass in some ways, love glass, let's be clear, is reusable, is recyclable, very high energy to produce, etc., etc. We know the pros and cons, certainly. Should we be pursuing these paper bottles, is what I'm in a very long-winded way trying to ask you?
I think it's a very long-winded topic. It's a very confusing topic. The short answer is I don't know yet. And I'm keeping open-minded. A lot of people are shooting it down as fast as they can, saying this is ridiculous, it's greenwashing. But because glass is so sustainable, it's such a sustainable option. But like you said, there are limits there. About 79% of glass gets recycled in Europe. Less than 40% of glass gets recycled in the USA. That's not very good.
I learned a fun fact yesterday. Well, maybe it's not a fun fact, but I learned a fact yesterday from Frugal Pack, who is entering the North American market, by the way.
I need to talk to them. Yeah.
Yes, you will. Definitely. I'll put you in touch. That 70% of the USA's glass is imported from China.
That makes sense. Yeah, I didn't know that number, but I got to interview Scott from the Glass Packaging Institute, and brilliant man. We didn't talk about where the glass came from, but we did talk about the recycling rates and the shift to reusable glass. And I think that's exciting. I think there's a lot of very positive changes. I think extended producer responsibility will change some of that kind of mindset. And I think people will be willing to invest in glass packaging if it is in fact going to get recycled or reused. We have a system here that we borrowed from the European culture, which is a reusable beer bottle or cider bottle. Why aren't we doing that everywhere? Why don't we have a standard bottle that just gets reused, or aluminum or glass, and that's reusable? So I think there's lots to be determined. We spoke yesterday at Circularity 23, put on by the amazing Green Biz organization, about a national bottle bill. That was brought up several times. And this is something I've been very interested in and excited about. Only 10 US states have bottle deposits. That's ridiculous. When you institute a bottle deposit in the US, we've done the math, it doubles recycling rates. So let's do more of that.
You're also getting a very clean collection stream. So, I mean, I know that's something that here in Australia with container deposit, CDS, as we call it, container deposit schemes, that has really helped when we are building the infrastructure for things like bottle to bottle recycling, which is happening here now for PET. to some degree now for HDPE infrastructures coming on stream. To be able to have that clean material coming in straight from the CDS collection points just makes life so much easier for those recyclers.
Yeah. Well, and it saves consumers money in the long run. They're not having to pay to get rid of waste. They're getting their money back for the deposit system. You're right. Everybody wins in that system, and it makes for a much more circular economy. So,
but I do think that, as you say, we have to keep an open mind about the pursuits, because with packaging, of course, it's always about fit for purpose.
yes.
And one material meets a purpose on one side and it doesn't on another. And it depends on the packaging, how far it on the product, the integrity that you have to maintain, how far it needs to travel. And the other side of it is packaging being so important for food waste, which is an enormous problem. And it causes far more damage to the environment than packaging does, for instance. Of course, we've just had World Environment Day this week, Cory. So there's been a lot of focus on beef plastic pollution. And I think primarily keeping things out of landfill, out of the oceans, primarily keeping things out of the oceans is more important than, on some level, weird as it might sound, than worrying about whether it's going to end up in landfill. So I spoke to this company that had done this installation to make a point on World Environment Day on Sydney's Bondi Beach, which is an iconic beach. You may be aware of it. They had an art sculpture rather, of a giant emoji poop. It was a little bit confronting when you saw it, but it equated to 7.5 tons of plastic waste. I think they said 7.5 tons of plastic waste, which is what enters the world's oceans every 30 seconds. 80% of that comes from Southeast Asia region. And this company is working with groups to take ocean-bound plastic and turn that into a substance or a material called Polastic, which then becomes carrier bags and things that we use for shipping, and garment bags for clothing and so on. But I asked the question, so you're rescuing the plastic before it gets into the ocean. But in our region at the moment, where we have a soft plastics recycling challenge, let's just call it that, euphemism. Yep. That plastic that you've now created into a bag doesn't have an end of life. It will when our new advanced recycling systems come on scheme, and soon, but not soon enough. So right now, that is not going into the ocean, but it is going into landfill. And that's a case where you have to keep an open mind and say, well, what's the better choice? We need to keep the plastic out of the ocean first and foremost.
Right. And you're designing for end of life, and it's all of the things that we talk about every day, and focusing on not just, okay, let's not put it in the ocean, but how do we put it into something that's going to get reused, or how do we put it in something that's going to get recycled? This is the caveat, and
I think the idea was that it would be recycled, and it would be as soon as we have soft plastics recycling or flexible plastics recycling system. And we are very actively working on different curbside collection schemes, trialing those here in Australia. And I'm sure this is happening globally in various markets. So it's not just definitely going into landfill. I'm just making the point here that we have to think about all the R's, the reuse, the recycle, the refuse in some cases, like buy as much, and reduce in terms of our material choices and our shapes and sizes when we're doing that packaging design. I'm not a packaging technologist, so I'm speaking very kind of loose and broad here. But I think another R might be reform or reframe the way we're thinking about this.
I've got a few. I printed out something that says the 7 R's of zero waste. And I look at it, it's right on my desk here, and it's refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, rehome, replant, and rot. So that is the kind of the 7 that they focused on. I like that. There are more, like you said.
Yes.
And we can't just focus on just recycling or just reducing, but we have to look at everything. Yeah, well said. Well, how are things down there in Australia today?
Well, it's now light because when you got me on, at first it was still pitch dark. Sun is shining where I am in Sydney. We have had an exciting week. There's always, for me, everything's exciting when it comes to packaging. But I was just doing the news wrap yesterday because I do a video news bulletin after our e-newsletter has gone out. So Australia seems to be an attractive market for international players. As I said to you, our lead story was Frugal Pack entering our market. And I did want to add that Frugal Pack is not just the bottle system. They also, it comes with the machine that forms that bottle. So ideally, you don't want to be importing the stuff. You want to be making it in the local market. So at the moment, the model is Frugal Pack makes it. They've got a plant in Ipswich, UK, and packages and things get sent here. It comes flat pack, and then it gets formed if you've got a big machine. So one of our printing companies here has expressed openly an intent to purchase. So, and that would then cater to the 27 million bottles per annum demand that there is in Australia for that Frugal Pack. And this is primarily for wine and spirits. They do package olive oil too. The other exciting thing is there's a company called PackTech. You might know them, a US company. They do recycled plastic handles for, say, multi-packs of beer cans.
Yes.
And it's HDPE that they're using. They announced their intent to set up shop here in Australia. By later this year, they'll be able to they are setting up a contract manufacturing facility and have a proprietary partnership relationship with Visi. You would know Visi, of course. And I think that's because Visi is collecting and recycling HDPE here. I've reached out to them to ask them, give me the actual terms of this relationship, but press releases say one thing, but some of the answers that I got back, it seems to me, so they're setting up contract manufacturing here. They'll be able to process onshore. So that's the main thing, is getting things processed, made, recycled, collected in Australia, recycled in Australia, manufactured in Australia. That's what you want to have, or substitute country name. Where possible, in order to not have these goods traveling all these distances and racking up the carbon miles.
Yeah, I know PackTech well. I've visited their factory. It's in Oregon here, just an hour and a half south of where I live. And they're recycling and reusing HDPE milk bottles and old PackTechs in a way that's very impressive. So that would be an exciting addition to your recycling stream. Well done.
Yeah, so those are two highlights from this week here in Australia.
Amazing. Well, we might have to make this a monthly or bi-monthly session with you, and we'll check in about IPPO and all the things going on with our group that I'm honored to be a new member of. Thank you.
Well, Cory, we welcome you, and you and I will be talking more and more about things that we can do together to help raise awareness around IPPO, to talk about sustainable packaging, your passion. And I hope that I will see you at Pack Expo. That would be my plan, Cory.
Oh, yeah. Let's plan on it. I'll be there for sure. And yeah, we'll have an exciting, maybe we'll do a podcast live there or something. We'll certainly make some content to share with the world about what we're doing there at Pack Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, thank you so much, Lindy. This has been amazing. Again, I'm very excited to be a member of your great organization, and congratulations on being elected to the president title. That's a very impressive role for you and well-deserved, I know. And if you're listening, I'd like to make sure that you subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss the next episode. And I'd like to thank Aurora Packaging for sponsoring. Thank you again, Lindy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Cory.